I don't know where to start. It's so terrible knowing that my wife doesn't want to live with me anymore. The worst part is, she's not giving any reason for that. She doesn't want to move in with me and my mother is supporting her in this. Let me give a background to this. I'm 51M. I had to move out from my hometown 13 years ago for work purposes, leaving my wife, Mona, 48F, and 2 children in Texas. Children are now 23 and 21. They both have moved to Houston and are living on their own. 13 to 14 years back when the US suffered a great recession due to the housing bubble, our business was one of those that went bankrupt overnight. My dad had passed away and I was running his construction business then. Everything went for a toss. I had the responsibility of my mother, 2 school-going kids, and my wife. It was just too much for me to manage in an unstable economy. After depleting all the savings and everything else, I had to make a tough decision of moving out. After trying out my luck in various Asian countries, I finally was able to set up my business in Dubai. It was a tough phase, but the drive to provide a good lifestyle to my family pushed me through all the difficulties. After leaving Texas, I wasn't home for more than a year until I was able to set foot on my new venture. After that, I used to visit home every 5 to 6 months or so. I wanted to bring my family here, but Mona and the children didn't want their school curriculum to be interrupted. Last year, my youngest daughter completed college and cracked a job at her sister's company. Before she was leaving home, I planned my vacation home to spend some time with her. During that visit, I asked Mona to shift with me here, now that both the children have moved out. But she denied, saying that my mom would be left alone. I suggested that mom could also join us, but they both didn't like the idea of leaving their hometown. They didn't want to shift to a new country with such a different culture. They were right in their way. Middle Eastern culture is very different from ours, so I didn't insist further. During my last visit home, I told Mona that I was planning to wrap up things in Dubai and move back to Texas. I thought this to be exciting news for her, but it was not. Her reaction to this was far from happy. I asked her if she didn't want us to be living together. She said, "No, I'm happy, just that you worked so hard to establish yourself there, so why do you want to leave everything and come back?" She was right to the extent that shutting down things that took so much sacrifice to build was not easy and might not be a good decision. But the thing is, I have been living away for 13 years, and now that my major responsibility, children's education, was over, I wanted to move back to my hometown, my comfort space. I assured her that I would take care of our finances the way I have been doing. I was planning to set up something in Texas now that the country's economy has bounced back. She was still not convinced. That was a red flag for me, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. The next morning my mom visited, and out of the blue, she said I shouldn't be making this hasty decision of moving back. I hadn't told her or anyone else about my plan, so it was Mona who would have told her. I was shocked. Like Mona, pushing back on this could be considered as a red flag, but when my mom also expressed a similar concern, I actually went into self-doubt. I thought maybe I was making the wrong decision. So, I dropped that idea. However, this was bothering me that my wife didn't want to live with me. The reason could be making sense, but I was heartbroken with the way Mona had become so emotionally distant from me. This feeling fogged into my head so much that after returning from home, I limited my calls and texts with her. I thought she would notice it and ask me about it, but she didn't care to ask if everything was fine. There were days when I didn't call her and she also didn't contact me. Days grew into weeks and now our communication is only transactional. All these indicated one thing, that she no longer needed me. So, last month I confronted her. I asked her if she didn't love me anymore. She brushed it off, saying I was just overthinking. She said she's just busy taking care of the house and my mom, who has grown fragile with age. I didn't know what to reply. I mean, it's not usual that you find your wife bonding so well with their mill and taking care of them. I was grateful to Mona for being so kind to my mom. My uneasiness is growing with each passing day. I cannot wrap my head around the question of why my wife would not want to be with me. We already have our own house, our major responsibilities are over, and on top of that I'm assuring her that our lifestyle won't be compromised, so why she doesn't want me home is not making sense. Yes, as you all are thinking, the same thing popped up in my head too. Maybe she had got someone better. But the thing is, how do I find out the truth? She has shown no other red flags until now. She had been a great mother, raising the children so bravely in my absence. It's not easy. She has fulfilled all her roles so elegantly. Sometimes I feel bad for suspecting her, but you know how long distance works. Any advice on how to find this out? Update 1. Thanks for all the advice. I was glad to connect with you folks who shared their story of betrayal. Quite a lesson to learn. Mona had been cheating on me and my mother knew about it all this while, but she didn't tell me anything. I don't know what I did to deserve this fate. Posting my story here and connecting with you people, one thing was sure, I cannot let this slide. I planned a surprise trip home. I didn't tell anyone about it, not even my mom. As I was entering my house, I dreaded bumping into Mona with her AP. Kinda funny, but after reading so many stories of cheating wives of deployed husbands, this was the one that came to my mind. Gladly nothing of that sort happened. Mona was in the kitchen when I entered the house using the spare key. Yes, she was shocked to see me. I carried a bouquet with me to cover it up as a surprise. She was obviously surprised but also suspicious of my sudden appearance. She bombarded me with questions regarding my show up. I told her that I had light work that month, so I decided to come home. She forced a smile and pretended to be happy, but it looked evidently fake. I spent the next few weeks digging out the truth. I did everything a psychopath in my situation would have done. Not too proud of some of that, but yeah, I clearly had no choice. I sneaked into her phone, eavesdropped on her conversation, planted a GPS device on her car, and followed her around the town. All this rendered information in bits and pieces gave me a clear picture of what was happening in my absence back home. It came out that she had been seeing someone for the last 8 years. The day I arrived home, she was super guarded about her phone. Earlier she used to clean all the evidence before I arrived. This time she didn't get the opportunity. I tried snooping into her phone on the very first day but didn't get a chance, and when I was finally able to access it, I found nothing. She might have cleaned it up at the very first chance. Her cheating came to light when I placed a GPS device inside her car and followed her along. Initially, I didn't suspect anything when I found her entering a hardware store, but as I was waiting outside for her to return, I saw that the owner had turned down the shutter and closed his shop. I felt so dizzy seeing that. After a couple of hours, I saw her leaving the shop and the owner opened the shutter. After her car left the driveway, I wanted to go inside the shop to see the AP myself, but I stopped myself thinking that maybe the AP would recognize me and ruin my plan. I waited for her to visit next so that I could catch them in the act. She had a pattern of stepping outside in the afternoon. On some days, she would visit my mom, sometimes with her friends or her parents. I mindlessly followed her everywhere waiting for her to meet AP. Finally, yesterday, she went to meet my mom. Usually on those days, I used to back off and didn't follow her further, and that's why it took me so long to catch her. But yesterday, I kept waiting there and found them leaving the house together. I didn't find it suspicious at all. I thought they were heading for shopping or something else. I didn't want to follow them, but something in me did that anyway. They stopped their car at that hardware store and my heart sank. AP came out and greeted them both. My mom and Mona both got out of the car. AP kissed Mona right in front of my mom. They spoke for a few minutes, then AP hugged Mom and she sat inside the car and drove off. AP and Mona went inside his shop and he pulled down the shutter. I just couldn't believe my eyes. The betrayal from your wife was one thing, but betrayal from your own mother is something beyond imagination. The truth suffocated me to the extent that I had to walk down the pathway for a few minutes to regain my breath. After a while, I went to the shop and knocked. It went unanswered. I knocked vigorously until AP opened the door. I asked him where's Mona and he froze. I pushed him aside and barged inside the shop before he could react. The lights were off and I could hear a feeble voice from the storeroom. I raced inside to find my wife lying bareback, touching herself and moaning for AP. It was just for a fraction of a second before AP pounced on me and dragged me outside the storeroom while Mona shrieked at the top of her voice. The moment was so chaotic that it took me a while to understand the situation. I punched AP and freed myself. By then, Mona came out of the storehouse covering herself. I grabbed her neck and asked her how long. AP tried to come to her rescue, but Mona stopped him. She started crying and pleaded that we discuss this at home. I realized I might get into trouble for this scuffle, so I backed off, came outside, and drove off. I went to my mom's house. I barged inside the house, shouting, "You knew it, you knew it. You also betrayed me." Mona had already called her because Mom didn't act surprised by my behavior. She just cried and held my hand, asking me to calm down. I broke down. Mona also arrived by then. Seeing her face made me angrier. I asked them to tell me the truth. After a lot of nudging, Mona said, "It was very lonely when you left. It's not easy to live alone for 13 years. You were so busy with your work that you hardly had any time for me. Your calls were limited for a few minutes and it was more of a status check call regarding children and Mom. What about me?" I asked her how long this had been going on. She said, 7 to 8 years maybe. Holy cow. I was such an idiot working my ass for those years in an alien country so that my family could have a good life, and this was what they were doing. I asked her why didn't divorce me if there was so much disconnect between us. She broke down again and said, "I love you. I never wanted to separate from you. Spending time with AP was only to de-stress myself and kill my loneliness and nothing else. He doesn't mean anything in my life." Really? After fooling around for a decade with him, he doesn't mean anything to her. Wow. I looked at Mom and asked her how I had wronged her to deserve this betrayal from her. She sobbed and said, "I know you hate me, but think from my perspective. You left me alone here. Mona was taking care of me. She also has needs. As a woman, I understand that, so I had to support her." Support her in betraying me? When I got all my answers, I got up to leave. They both tried to stop me and followed me outside, but I warned them not to. I told Mona not to come home and I want to be alone for a while. I drove back home, sulking. I'm feeling sick in my stomach. I don't know how I should react to this. Is this affair really my fault that I was wandering in a foreign country for my family's sake? Update 2. You guys have been a great support, thanks. This is what happened next. I spent the next few days immersed in my sorrows. Then I drove to Houston to meet my daughters. They were not kids. They deserved to know what their mom was up to when I was busy providing for them. I did this also to safeguard myself. My plan was to leave the country and Mona could use that against me to manipulate my daughters. They were shattered to know the truth, but the elder one also said that sometimes she felt Mona and my mom were definitely up to something. She also said that she suspected my mom to be seeing a widower who lived 2 blocks away. Anyways, that's not my problem. My dad had passed away decades ago, so she could do whatever she wanted, but she supporting Mona and all this is a problem for me. The next day I packed my stuff and came back. Mona and mom had been calling me since then. I think they came home to find an empty house, and that's when reality hit them. Yeah, I abandoned them. For the initial 1 month, the calls and texts were filled with sorries and pleadings and asking me to return home, but eventually, they got concerned about the money. I had not blocked them deliberately. I wanted to see them getting anxious without money. I froze my bank accounts and credit card. They lost their marbles with that. It was obvious because neither of them had any source of income. Mom was on a state pension, but it wasn't enough to cover the lifestyle they have been leading. They are desperately trying all means to get a response from me, but I have ghosted them. Mom has resorted to emotional blackmail, saying that dad would have been so heartbroken to see that I have left her alone in this old age. All their pleas are falling on deaf ears. They have betrayed me so badly. I never suspected Mona of anything. I never checked her phone like people in long-distance relationships do, but I always respected her privacy. More than Mona, I feel betrayed by Mom. Sometimes, when I had a dizzy feeling about Mona, seeing her strong bond with Mom made me feel lighter. In return, I get cheated upon. The reason they used to cover up Mona's cheating was so lame. Like, she was lonely, hence she decided to open her legs. She was feeling alone in her own house with children, surrounded by friends and family. Wow. If you compare it that way, I was lonelier, literally alone in a foreign land with no family or friends. I could have also brought someone inside my bed, but the difference is I didn't. I was so busy thinking about the well-being of my family that fooling around was the last thing that came to my mind. I was working hard, saving up so that I could move back home as soon as possible. When none of their advances got a response from me, they reached out to my daughters for help. Mona didn't know that I had told the truth to the girls, and she did exactly what I had expected. Mona badmouthed about me in front of them, saying that I have financially cut them off. She also alleged that I was having an affair in the Gulf or maybe have married someone here. After listening to all her BS, my girls gave her back and told her that they knew the truth about her affair. They chased her away that day, but Mona has been reaching out to the younger one asking for help. The younger one is closer to Mona and she's leveraging her innocence to extract money from her. Anyways, I'm not gonna ask her to stop helping her mom. She's an adult and knows what to do. Mom also has been reaching out to my daughters for financial help. As for me, I'm still unable to move on from the feeling of betrayal. I have also not thought about divorce yet. It's gonna dent my pocket unnecessarily. Divorce would be beneficial for Mona financially and also personally if she wants to marry AP, but I'm not getting into that. She's already living in my house and that's the maximum she can get from me. I'm out of the country and have no accountability, so whether divorced or not, it really doesn't matter to me. I'm trying to move on with my life. We'll update if anything develops. Update 3, here's what happened next. After I financially cut them off, they tried all the resources they could. My elder daughter refused to help them, but the younger one got manipulated into helping them, but she didn't earn much. She's in her first job with very little pay which covers her basics. Despite that, she's saving some of it to help her mom. I felt proud of her actually. Eventually, she got exhausted helping Mona. She suggested Mona get a job to sustain herself, but Mona took her for granted, saying that it was her responsibility to care for her mother in her time of need. My younger daughter did whatever she could from her little income, but when it became too much for her, she cut her off. Mona couldn't marry AP as she is still married to me. So she has been reaching out to me for divorce. She has been threatening me with all sorts of legal consequences, but you know what, I don't care. I'm out of the country. I don't think she has enough knowledge or resources to sue me in a cross-border setup, and even if she does, there's no punishment for abandoning your cheating wife as per the law of this land. So yeah, good luck with her legal notice. Current status of Mona is that she is working at AP's shop and I don't know what she's getting in exchange for her service, money or dick. AP doesn't have a proper house. He lives in his camper and he also has an ailing father to take care of, so he's also financially not strong enough to provide for Princess Mona. As far as my mom is concerned, now I sometimes feel bad for scorching her and want to help her out, but she gets a pension and that should be sufficient for her to survive. She brought that on herself. I might make it up with her in the future, but not right now. Though she has said sorry for what she has done, it didn't feel like she was genuinely sorry for her actions. So, I'll wait for the day when she genuinely repents her mistake or my anger subsides and my love for her overpowers my emotions. Some of you advised me to move on and enjoy the vibrant lifestyle of Dubai. Funny though, it is not as hunky-dory as it looks on social media. That royal mesmerizing lifestyle portrayed on social media is not for all. It needs money, a huge lot of money. So, I'll skip that for now. Laws concerning women are also quite strict here. Also, I'm not interested in using women's bodies to get over my grief. But yes, I have been traveling a lot since then. I have been to China and Bali so far. There's a long list of other Asian countries and cultures that I'm planning to explore subsequently. We'll initiate a different thread to share my travel experience. Thanks for all the love and support. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Thought my wife was getting help, but she was actually cheating on me with her therapist the whole time. I don't know how to start this. I guess I'll just get right into the story so you can hear about the betrayal. This is more of a rant than anything. Still, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. I met her at my cousin's wedding. She was the most beautiful woman in the room. And she happened to be a member of the bridal party, which made it easier for us to talk. After a few drinks, I worked up the courage to talk to her. We got to know each other, exchanged numbers, not social media, which I thought made it seem serious, and we got to know each other for the rest of the night. After that, we fell head over heels for one another. It was like I couldn't get enough of her. She filled my thoughts every day and night, and we talked on the phone every single chance we got. Mostly about nothing important. It was nice. We started dating regularly. I called her my girlfriend, and after 2 years, my wife. We made a nice family together over the last few years. We had one child, a girl. Neither of us was the same after our kid, but my wife suffered from postpartum depression. It is a nasty disease that eats up the soul, from what I can tell. And after a few months, and the second time I saw her yell at the child, my wife found a therapist. Things actually looked like they were improving for a second. My wife took the therapist's recommendations and found a hobby, therapy. She seemed to go all the time, 3 times a week, almost religiously. It seemed like all she did was go to therapy sometimes. And though her care for our child skyrocketed, she wasn't paying any attention to me. She would get home, give me a peckish kiss, and then go off and play with the kid. I found out that playing with the kid was actually her sitting on her phone around our child. It seemed weird for her to lie to me. So, I spied over her shoulder. But she turned and asked what I was doing. I said that she'd been distant and we had a big fight, right there in front of the kid. Once we had that fight, her phone was on lockdown. Still, dumbly, I assumed she was having some sort of mental breakdown and allowed her this space to talk with her therapist, who she now saw 4 times a week, once more for an additional session of exposure therapy. It's crazy because I didn't even have to look at her phone to find out the lies. That Sunday morning, I borrowed my wife's iPad to search Craigslist for cars. It's kind of an old habit. And that's when a message from my wife's therapist popped up on the screen. Call me stupid, but I thought it wasn't normal for a therapist to message their clients whenever. So I went to her gallery. For some reason, I knew TD find something. So when I saw the picture of my wife with her therapist, I didn't throw the iPad or blow up in her face like I thought I might. The photo wasn't incriminating, but they looked too close for comfort. Alarm bells went off, sure, but these were easily ignored by the interest he had in finding out why she was so close with her therapist, and whether a good therapist would take photos with their clients at all. This made me think about the messages again. And that's directly where I went. I figured out that she'd been messaging her therapist day after day for 6 months now. He had taken over my spot in her heart. My world went red for a while and I couldn't focus on anything. I had been of a sound enough mind to take screenshots and send them to my phone and then delete the traces. Imagine that's what someone feels like when they don't know they're in a horror story. Just trying to escape and cover tracks so you make it out alive. Anyway, I talked it over with my friend after I calmed down for a bit. He recommended I talk to a lawyer, who recommended I file for a divorce without telling my wife. He said this kind of thing happens all the time, giving his condolences for my unfortunate fate shortly after. In the following days, I had to fake it with my wife. It wasn't very hard. She barely paid any attention to me. Still, I couldn't really sleep knowing that she'd been out sleeping in some other bed with a therapist and not doing much sleeping at all. I hired a private investigator, per recommendation by the lawyer. Turns out those people know how to do their jobs. The investigator found her going to a nearby motel with a therapist during her appointments. All 4 of them, every week. Not gonna lie, that felt like taking an upward traveling bullet to the sternum. My lawyer said it was what he called a foolproof case. I told him I didn't really care. I just wanted things to end. We reported the therapist to the medical board with proof from our PI. It was kind of nice to watch the therapist get reported and finally be truthful about the divorce. My wife called frantically once finding out that her secret man was in hot water, crying and begging me to work things out because it was a mistake, that she wasn't thinking straight due to her mental disorder, etc. I called her out on her bullshit. Next, I called her parents. They were rational about the whole thing, scolding their daughter for cheating, and they immediately started from a whole state away to pick her up right when I asked. In the meantime, I packed all of her remaining things into her duffel bags and put them on the porch, by which time she arrived home and started her waterworks. I simply shut the door in her face and wouldn't let her come in to talk. There was nothing left to talk about. When her parents arrived a while past midnight, they found her, a mess from hours of crying. So, I sent the divorce papers to make things official, and the rest is pretty much history. Court history to be clear. I ended up suing for custody of the daughter, as much as I could get, my house, and no alimony. 9 months of fighting hard with a lawyer who truly believed in my case proved to be pretty effective. The thing is that now that I'm writing this, I guess that I've realized this all was supposed to happen. My ex-wife wasn't happy and neither was I now. My daughter is adjusting well in our new city and we aren't bogged down by the weight of arguments with my ex-wife. I really think that my life might look up from this point on. But then again, I don't want to be too sure.